Do you remember your first lesson in love? I bet if I asked everyone here to name the first lesson in love, we could probably do it. It may have been your parents who loved you unconditionally, who positively returned our love, who consistently paid attention to us and were good and kind and faithful and sacrificed and made us feel unique and special and unconditionally accepted. Or it may have been a negative lesson, that cute little girl on the bus with the big brown eyes named Dawn, for whom you wrote a poem, and she read the poem to some older boys who then tore it up and read it out aloud on the bus to embarrass you. That's just an example. That's not based in anything. We may have experienced a lesson in love where someone forgave us for a terrible offense, something which we did and had no excuse, and they forgave us anyway and loved us anyway. Most of our joy, and conversely, most of our dysfunction in life comes from the way in which we understand and the way in which we experience love. However, we cannot possibly understand love. We cannot possibly know love in its highest form without knowing Jesus' wondrous love for us. Now, it seems particularly timely this week to mention that just as the Eskimos have 100 words for snow, the ancient Greeks had 4 words describing what love is. 4 words and meaning love, and of course, Greek is the language of the New Testament. And a lot of our misunderstanding about love comes from collapsing and misunderstanding these 4 forms, confusing these 4 forms. And you may remember a couple weeks ago we defined love as the act of laying down our life for another. Laying down our life for another. See, love compels us to give of ourselves. It compels us to drain our resources of life and time and treasure and energy, thoughts, words for someone else. Love results in a transfer of what I need to survive over to another person. And the way we practice this life-giving love, so the Greeks said, happens in 4 ways, a variety of ways. The first kind of love the Greeks talked about was storge, which means affection. This is the kind of love between, say, a parent or a child, or the love between business partners or a teacher and a student. It is a need-based love. It is a love that develops between people because they share a common situation, or they share something, or they share a common cause. This is a love of mutual benefit. The second kind of love a lot of us know about is called philia, which means friendship, meaning simply that 2 people enjoy and are blessed by the company of the other. And the third kind of love is the kind we often think about around Valentine's Day, which is eros, meaning romantic love, sexual attraction. When we think of being in love, we usually think about eros. And of course, there is a lot at stake in how we think about all these different kinds of loves. And there is a lot at stake for keeping these kinds of loves unconfused and distinct. These 3 forms of love, well, they come very naturally to most of us. And what these 3 kinds of love have in common is that they are all an implied contract. They are an implied contract. As long as I'm receiving the benefits from loving you, I will continue to do so. Now, in the ancient Greek language, there is a 4th word for love. It's a word I'm sure a lot of you have heard before in church. It is the word agape. And that is the word that Paul uses here in 1 Corinthians 13, talking about love. And it is different still. In the span of 8 verses, this word appears 7 times. And Paul calls this the highest love. He claims it is a love greater than the highest gifts. Gifts greater than sacrifice, more significant and enduring than even faith and hope. The King James Version, if you have that version, translates the word agape as charity. St. Francis de Sales labeled agape as disinterested love, meaning a love that pays no attention to ourselves but is totally focused on the other. That sounds sort of like a cold fish love to me, so I don't like that too much. Martin Luther King Jr. referred to agape as determined love, meaning love that is determined to keep loving no matter the response. What is agape? What is agape? I think we have in verses 7 and 8 in 1 Corinthians 13 as good a description as we are going to find anywhere, where it reads, agape bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Agape never ends. So you see, agape is love that is unconditional. It is a love that does not count the cost. It is a love that does not require a response. It is a love that endures come what may. It is a love that does not pass away. It is eternal. Agape is not a contract love like the other three kinds of love. Agape is a covenant love. It is a love that is kept and it is maintained no matter how it is received, no matter how it is responded to. Without agape, we don't fully understand love. And without agape, more than that, we'll be frustrated. We'll be disappointed in the relationships that we have. We'll always find ourselves wanting more and craving more and unable to open up our heart in the way in which we so desperately long to do. So what Paul does here in 1 Corinthians 13 is Paul gives us some great instruction about what agape looks like and how we can practice what he calls the highest of all loves and actually the greatest of all human vocations. First thing Paul teaches us is he says, agape reveals our eternal selves. Agape reveals our eternal selves. Listen again to 1 Corinthians 13, 1 through 3, and then I want to read verse 13 for us also. Paul wrote, if I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I'm a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith, so as to remove mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. If I give away all I have and deliver up my body to be burned, but have not love, I gain nothing. And then verse 13, Paul goes on to say, so now faith, hope, and love abide, these three, but the greatest of these is love. Now please understand me. We're not saying here like the Beatles said, all you need is love. That isn't true. That isn't true. We certainly need more than love. Love alone will not cut it. But in our zeal to be faithful and to follow Jesus and to do the right thing, we better not forget about love. Because great speeches and prophecy and wisdom and faith that moves mountains and sacrifice, they're all worthless without love. If it's practiced alone and in isolation, they get us no closer to becoming the man or the woman who God intends us to be eternally, the eternal person. Do you ever wonder? Do you ever wonder what your heavenly self will be like? Do you ever find yourself thinking about that? Will you be young again? Will you have hair again? Wouldn't that be nice? Will you be able to dunk a basketball? Will you be a better conversationalist? Will you not carry around the brokenness of this life? The best way to get a glimpse of who we will be eternally, who we will become, is to practice unconditional love. We were made to practice agape, and we were made to practice it for all eternity. Someday, Paul teaches, there will be no need for faith because God will reveal all mysteries. We will see him face to face. Someday, there will be no need for hope because we're going to know all things fully. But even in eternity, we're not going to stop practicing love. We are made to love. Love is our eternal vocation. And the more we practice agape in this world, the more we become the man or the woman the Father intends for us to be forever and ever. Our best self, our self fully alive. Now, I don't know that practicing love will help anyone dunk a basketball. Be nice, but I believe it does keep us young. It keeps us young, at least young at heart, if not emotionally, and I think even physically younger. Practicing agape, it helps us lay down our brokenness because you cannot hold tightly onto pain and share love at the same time. It is emotionally impossible. So if you don't like who you are, if you want to be a better self, a better someone, the best way to become all that God has made you to be is to love unconditionally. Love unconditionally. Second thing Paul teaches us is that agape makes love endure. It makes love endure. The reality of love, and it is a hard reality, is that loving someone is hard at times. Loving is hard. It is so hard that sometimes we want to stop loving. We just want to give up. We want to give up. We want to guard our heart. We want to protect our soul. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. C.S. Lewis described why. He said, to love at all is to be vulnerable. Love anything, and your heart will certainly be wrung and possibly be broken. If you want to make sure of keeping it intact, you must give your heart to no one, not even to an animal. Wrap it carefully around with hobbies and little luxuries. Avoid all entanglements. Lock it up safe in the casket or coffin of your selfishness. But in that casket, safe, dark, motionless, airless, it will change. It will become unbreakable, impenetrable, irredeemable. See, agape is the choice to love when love disappoints us, when our heart is broken. It sounds sort of funny to say to this, but marriage is the perfect example of what must happen here. A husband and wife begin their romantic relationship in eros, romantic love. If someone began a romantic relationship in loving unconditionally, as in agape, you would be very concerned. If someone said, well, she never returns my calls, she treats me like garbage, she never says thank you and hardly gives me the time of day, she is rude and crude and mean, and I'm really not that attracted to her anyway, but we're determined to get married, and we're going to love each other for the rest of our lives. You'd be really concerned about that. You would say, man, what are you doing? What are you doing? However, we acknowledge the need for eros to transform to agape in the wedding ceremony as the husband and wife make a covenant to each other for richer, for poorer, and sickness and in health, as long as we both shall live. We don't say, standing up here, I'll love you for as long as I find you interesting, devastatingly attractive, a decent provider, good-humored, and well-intended. I'll love you as long as that goes on. That's not what we say. Now, this isn't to say that eros passes away entirely, at least you would hope not, but agape must be a factor. A husband needs agape when his wife slurps her soup with the same slow and sloppy slurp she has slurped her soup for 27 years, and she does it again, and he lets out one of these. Ever done that? Ever done that? I haven't, but I'm sure many of you have. A wife needs agape when she sees her husband's Q-tip on the bathroom sink used 2 feet away from the trash can, and she must suppress a primal scream. Or let's say you have a friendship with someone that is filial love, the friend whom you've known for years, and they let you down, or they go through a hard time, and that friendship is just not very enjoyable anymore. You will need agape to maintain that friend, a real, true friend. You need agape to love a 2-year-old who throws a tantrum because you put orange jelly rather than grape jelly on their toast after they told you in no uncertain terms 90 seconds later that they hated grape jelly. In a minute and a half, their ontological preference for jelly has shifted, and you can't explain why. Agape is love's preservative. It is love's preservative. It is the salt that cures and keeps our relationships. As Paul put it, agape never ends. Third thing that Paul teaches is agape upholds truth. Agape upholds truth. He puts this really clearly. Agape does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but it rejoices with the truth. One of the ways that we really struggle with love in our day and age, and we misunderstand love, is that we think it is unloving to tell someone the truth. We have a really hard time now reconciling how we can love someone and tell them that what they're doing is wrong, or it is immoral, or it is harmful for their soul. Our conception of love today implies acceptance of someone's actions. And it is common wisdom that loving someone is having tolerance for and accepting what they do as long as it does not hurt anyone else. That's not agape. That's not agape. Agape does not rejoice with wrongdoing. Agape rejoices with the truth. And the man or the woman who practices agape will offer that rarest of gifts, a gift that people will go seeking for their entire life in vain. The person who practices agape offers two things that in combination are exceptionally rare: unconditional love and unconditional truth. Unconditional love makes hearing the truth bearable. We fear the truth. We really fear the truth. Truth can be terrifying. But I don't think it is the truth itself that terrifies us, but it is the judgment. It is the condemnation. It is the lack of acceptance that causes us to shrink from knowing the truth. You see, truth without love is often harsh and cold and unforgiving. And love without truth is mere sentimentality. It is chicken soup for the soul. But unconditional love combined with unconditional truth, that's life-altering. That is character-shaping. That is world-changing. Telling someone the truth when no one else dares to do it is among the most loving of acts that we can choose. Fourth and finally, agape is God's gift. Agape is God's gift. As you know, 1 Corinthians 13 is a well-used wedding passage, and if you ever heard me perform a wedding where the bride and the groom have selected this famous love passage, you have likely heard me warn them that love is hard. I've told them this passage for a marriage is a bad choice because it's not easy. It's not easy. Our practice of love in the crucible of marriage is often impatient. It is often unkind. It is envious. It is irritable. It is resentful. And so I caution the bride and the groom that they have set for themselves an impossibly high standard for their wedding by choosing this 1 Corinthians 13 passage. I asked Jen to choose a passage that said, "Forgive as you have been forgiven," because I thought that would be a great one for us to have. She didn't go for it, but that's okay. But if we hold ourselves to this impossibly high standard, we're going to be disappointed in ourselves. We're going to be disappointed in our spouse if we think that marriage fits Paul's description here of love. And so I have one piece of advice for these couples standing on the brink of wedded bliss. If you want to love each other the way Paul teaches us to love, with patience and with joy and with forbearance and with humility, you need Jesus. You need Jesus. We don't have it within us. We simply don't. We cannot create agape. We can't gin it up. We can't will it. We have to get agape from outside of us. And there is only one source. There is only one supply of agape in the cosmos. Agape is the fruit of allowing the Holy Spirit to reign in our life. The Apostle John wrote a lot about love. Here's how John summarizes how we are to love. He said, "So we have come to know and believe the love that God has for us. God is love. And whoever abides in love abides in God, and God abides in him." So if we want to have an undying love, if we want to have an unconditional love, we will abide in God because the God who died loves us. And his promise is that if we abide in him, he will pour his love into us until it is absolutely overflowing. And we'll be peaceful, and we'll be gentle, and we'll be kind, and we'll be joyful, and we'll be patient, because the Lord of all those qualities lives within us. We will surprise ourselves. We will shock ourselves with how peaceful and kind and gentle and patient we can be, and we won't understand entirely where it is coming from or how we're doing it. But indeed, that living water will flow so richly into us and through us and up and out of us that it'll overwhelm the world. God's abiding, steadfast love is greater than anything we may encounter in this sinful and broken world. John Perkins is a African-American preacher, a Mississippi pastor, and he tells the story of being arrested along with 11 other people just a couple of days before Christmas in 1969. And he and these other 11 had asked questions about a young man who had been beaten by the police, and they suddenly, for asking questions, found themselves thrown in jail. And some of the 11 were merely kids. They were teenagers, and it didn't take long for a crowd to gather outside. And this crowd was composed of a lot of parents of some of these teens, and they were antsy, and they were agitated, and they were filled with fear for their children. And some of the policemen, they began to antagonize the crowd, hoping they would just disperse and go away. And they began attacking their pastor's character, John Perkins' character, calling him a liar and calling him a false leader of their people. And it was a situation that in 1969 in Mississippi was ripe for something terrible to happen. And John Perkins could hear the arguing and hear the turmoil in the crowd from his jail cell window. And he writes that suddenly he was filled to overflowing with love. He wrote, "I could feel a great churning inside me, but it wasn't an anger I felt, it was anguish, pity, grief. Yes, in love. So deep and so strong, I couldn't contain it. It just filled me and it spilled up out of me." And the way God's love spilled up out of John Perkins at this time, at this place, was to preach a sermon. And so he literally grasped the bars of his prison window and shouted to the crowd beneath him, urging them to, stand up for justice, stand up for righteousness, but to do it with love, not with violence. And they did, and the entire mood of the crowd changed. They remained determined to do something, to set things right, but they were going to do it with love. And so 2 days before Christmas, God gave the people of Mendenhall, Mississippi, a wonderful gift, a powerful, powerful lesson in love. So let me ask you, what was your first lesson in love? What has been your greatest lesson in love? Was it the mom or dad or friend or scout leader who loved you unconditionally? Was it the girl who broke your heart? Those lessons, they keep on coming. They keep on coming. You may have a son or a daughter who for some reason ignores your very existence. The person with whom you pledged to spend the rest of your life may have left you to live out all the days of your life alone. You could have a long and sprawling list of those who have disappointed you and deceived you and disillusioned you and it has left you with the lesson that love is unbearable. And you've come to believe that it is easier and better not to love, to put that heart into a dark coffin in your soul so that nothing can ever get to it. The greatest lesson in love, the lesson that overcomes our brokenness, that is greater than our pain, and is more penetrating than our deepest wound, is Jesus' love for you. If we want to understand love, we must know his love for us, that wondrous, wondrous love that he has for you and for me. Let me borrow from Paul as I close. Jesus is patient and kind. Jesus does not envy or boast. Jesus is not arrogant or rude. He does not insist on his own way. Jesus is not irritable or resentful. He does not rejoice with wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Jesus bears all things, believes all things, endures all things. Jesus' love for you never ends. Next week, we'll talk about how we can know and practice that love.